All right. Well, welcome everyone. Good to have you all here on, well, I don't know if it's an auspicious occasion, but it is my birthday. Yeah. Well, the body's birthday. Let's be honest. The body is 61 years old today in story. I could say a story. But the question is what you are, is what I am, does that have an age? It's a good question. Yeah, anybody feel free to jump in and unmute and share at any time.
Yeah, did you want an answer to that?
You got one?
Yeah, because what I am is timeless, ageless. It doesn't have gray hair. It doesn't have to eat breakfast. It doesn't have any of that.
No, it's completely empty.
Yep.
What does age mean?
Well, it's a story, right? So I say, okay, this body, 61 years old, that's a story about age. Right? That's all we have are our stories and how much they're believed.
I love the idea. I love it that we don't have an age, because with my grandchildren that are really precious to me, if I meet with them for a coffee or in a cafe or something, we're the same. They might be 16 in earthly age, but we can connect on a level that's timeless, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, we might notice that if you were to ask the body how old it is, it wouldn't say anything. So the body doesn't think of itself as having an age, and what you are doesn't have an age. So what is this business that knows labels, says this is that, and that's this, and one's better than the other? What is that?
That's me.
I don't know, but
Wait, who
society
said that's
runs.
me? Who said that's me?
Oh.
I did.
Ding, ding, ding.
Alice?
Got a me in the house.
Wow. Peter Reck. All right, we need a Reck. Let's let him in. Let's go ahead, Alice.
No, I said what you were saying is that that's me, what you were describing, who says this and who says that. I didn't have anything else to add to it. I just wanted to answer your question.
Well, spot on. Right? Because
Oh, of course.
without me saying it should be this way, it should be that way, that's wrong. That one's right. Okay, they're okay. Without that one,
But society runs on that premise, like in the newspaper, they will print the age of the person who was killed. It's all we're all identified with the age we are.
Wait, hold on. Is there a bird? Oh, it stopped.
Oh, in my place, at my place, there is.
Oh, there is a bird. Okay.
Might be.
I just thought I was going senile. I'm allowed.
It might be Peter. Peter's not muted.
No, I don't have a bird here.
Maybe it's Michael.
No,
It's Alan.
Oh my God. Now it's turning into Monsters on Maple Street, the Twilight Zone. Do you guys remember that one? Where they all started accusing each other and all the aliens did was turn off the electricity and then turn it back on randomly, and the humans ended up like killing themselves. You know, one guy gets shot because they're so freaked out. It doesn't take much to trigger a me, because a me is, you know,
You know how triggering it is when you tell someone what their age is? When you get them thinking about what age they are? You know how triggering that is for the ego? It's like all of a sudden the ego goes into, oh my God, I don't have a good job. I'm too old to do this. I'm too young to do that. All these limitations the ego starts putting on itself just by someone else or that ego saying, I am XX age. That label starts a whole chain reaction of egoic events that aren't real.
You know what I wonder is, if my me is not here, will all that still happen? If the tree in the forest and so on, like if my me is not here, am I still perceiving all this stuff in the newspaper or these mechanisms?
Peter, what difference does that make? Why? Who's interested in that? Is that Peter, the character? That question coming from Peter, the character, or is that question coming from you? You, who you really are?
Well, if I'm just here listening, then there is no questions. Then I just hear people talk.
Yeah. I mean, if you having that knowledge about like what would the world be like if, or what is the, you know, all these endless questions, wouldn't really help who you are. It doesn't, you don't get anything by getting that answer. It helps the character, helps in quotations. The character Peter is always looking for more information, more answer, right? What's right behind, what's the next? What can I know about what is next? That's endless, but it doesn't go anywhere. There's no prize to be, you know, right? There isn't anything good that's going to come from that, anything real. Because the only thing that's real is what's already here without any question and answer.
I'll take that one to reflect on. I don't have a sense that I'm resonating with what you experience when you hear my question. However, I can certainly appreciate what you share.
Does anyone else resonate with this as I'm saying it?
Yeah, I do, Dan. I do, Dan, because my me has always, whenever I answered a question like Peter's question, it just led to more questions and more questions. And it just never ends. And it's pointless. It just leads to suffering, essentially, which is, I think, what we're all trying to avoid here. So, yeah, I mean, that's been my me's experience with trying to figure it all out.
By the way, Corey, your picture went away. There you are.
All right. Yeah, what I'm trying to point out, or at least raise as a question, because I don't want to, you know, be delivering any dogma here. If whatever I say ever doesn't resonate, then I'm, you know, that's just I'm just trying to raise the question.
You're raising a question. Yeah,
well, what I'm trying to point to is that there's the character Peter that we know very well, our character, and that one is always has questions and is always looking to see, well, what if this, and but what about that, and what, you know, it's endless. But then there's also the me that is not the character. Let's say the one who I am, which doesn't have a description, it doesn't have a history, it doesn't have all those things, an age. And that one doesn't have any questions because it wouldn't benefit from any answers. It's not looking for anything.
Right. Yeah.
This is what
Dan.
I'm just trying to suggest. What do we resonate with here? What seems more real?
Yeah, that was really kind of, I sometimes put my statements in question form.
Yeah.
I think I was attempting to say something similar, that if my me is not here, does it matter what is happening out there? Do I need to analyze where people are coming from, or whether they have a me or not a me? If my me is not here, then things are just as they are. Maybe that's as a statement. Maybe I make a statement.
Okay. All right. So the birthday.
By the way, I just want to say I'm on to you a little bit, Peter, because you made a very beautiful post in Facebook. I think it was either today or yesterday, where you pretty much said all of this that I just said.
Well, thank you. Thank you for following it. I'm learning it here.
So now I'm checking to see whether you really believe your own posts. But anyway, sorry, Michael, go ahead. Yeah, we check your homework in this class.
I saw the post too. It was beautiful.
Thank you, Alice.
Go ahead, Michael. I'm teeing you up.
So this message is saying there's nowhere to get to. That's why you've heard the analogy of the hamster wheel. So the hamster wheel gives the illusion of movement, right? There's no arguing the hamster, right? If we were to interview the hamster, right? Oh yeah, I'm working hard. Are you moving? Oh yes, definitely moving. Well, is the little guy getting anywhere? Really? He would have to imagine it, wouldn't he? Like he could imagine he's on some great journey, right? In his imagination. So it really wouldn't matter that he's on a treadmill. But if you're suffering, then this message, Tim Kliss was nice enough to wish me a happy birthday message this morning. And I thanked him. And I told him I really resonated with the word resonance. That he had talked about it on his Zoom call. A woman named Diana called up and asked, well, I hear this word resonance thrown around, but what do we mean by the word resonance? And I thought that was a great question, because we all hear it. I've said it many times, if this message resonates, but what do we mean? What does that mean to resonate? Oh, Joanna and everyone's favorite uncle. On my birthday. Oh, it's so nice of them. Oh, there's that bird. Is that you, Faith?
Yeah, that's me. Because, sorry, but I just can I say something. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Sorry about the.
No problem.
Yeah. About the resonance. For me, resonance is a bypassing of the head and the mind, and it landing in the heart.
Yeah, beautiful, Faith, because my response to Tim was that you don't need words for resonance. If something resonates, it resonates. You don't need a reason. You just know it, right? You just feel it in your bones. Oh yeah, that's true. You know, you don't even know how you know, but you just would never, it just. So when I say things like everything is it, your mind can disagree with that. What do you mean everything is it? But is there a resonance?
Well, I don't know about the resonance. What happens when you say that, something like that? Something inside me, it calms down. There's a relief and there's calming down inside. I don't know that it's resonating, because resonating is a sort of a bit of a vibrating meaning attached to it for me, but just, yes, it's just calming. It just calms the body somehow.
Well, I say this because it's such an outrageous statement, right? To say everything is it, that why aren't you all just running from the room? Like, why aren't you going, oh my God, this is the most, nonsense I've ever heard, but you're not. There's something in you, and that's what we're talking about here. The thing that's not you. It doesn't know what it is. It's not anything in particular. The me thinks it knows what it is. So we're not talking about what you know.
What strikes me more and more lately within the statement of this is it, is that all the other stuff that I used to think and assume and believe, and it's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's all it, yet what really is it is what is here right now at this particular moment, includes it all, and that there really isn't anything else. And I always thought there's a whole bunch of other stuff, and it starts hitting me that there really isn't.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, yeah, that's really nice. There really is just this. That's what has to, quote, land. I used to use that word. It has to land that all you've ever experienced is this. However it's looked. That will stop you in your little tracks. If you realize that there's something here that's never moved and it's never changed, and there's something here that's always moving and always changing.
I like that analogy that you've used in the past, Michael, that, there's no off stage. That's really helped, just there's nothing else. What would be outside of this moment, so to speak?
Right. And that's Peter. That's what you were just saying. There's nothing else but for the seeking mind, that doesn't make any sense. And it's not even a value. It needs future as a me, right? I need a future because that's where I'm going to find my success in the future. But there's not a future. There's never been a future. There's only ever been this.
It was interesting. I was in a meeting a little bit earlier, and it was a wonderful moment of a group of people being all here in this is it space. And then somebody starts talking about becoming, and I started to realize that there is nothing becoming. It just is. It's not becoming. It is.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That was a big one. When you realize everything is spontaneously appearing and it's not dependent on anything else. So resistance can just arise for no reason. And it doesn't need a reason. That's the mind blower. Nothing needs a reason to be.
Did you say resistance?
Yeah, I said resistance doesn't need a reason to be. It can just arise you can just feel like you're in resistance, like sort of from left field. Like it can just, for no reason, you don't even know why you're resisting it. And then suddenly it can just go away for no reason. And then you find yourself doing the very thing and it ends up not being a big deal.
Well,
So,
the thing,
it seems when I'm in the me, there's always resistance going on.
right. If you look closely, there really is no reason for the resistance.
There's no
Only
reason for
the
it.
me comes into story and says, oh, this is why I'm resisting. And then by that time you're gone. You're in story already. But if you look closely, the resistance just arises. There's really no reason for it.
Yeah, the assumption that they're connected is quite powerful. So like if you've ever had your heart broken and the person has like broken up with you and you're very sad, you're home alone and you're completely lost in that story that your pain is because of what's happened with this person. It's not. It's just happening in the moment and there's nothing to be done. Whatever is happening is happening. And there's a tremendous freedom in seeing this because then, I don't know, if you're not trying to get anywhere, because the me, right? I'm always trying to get somewhere.
Michael, are you suggesting that the me is obsessed with connecting cause and effect, and you're saying things just are, and there is no need to make up a story that this has led to this?
I mean, not unless you like doing extra work, right? If like for, I don't know, stories just became too, I don't know. Maybe you find you don't need stories.
Well, they're fabricated by the me, that they're not what is.
So, we could say that the me is fabricating the story, but we can also say that the me is the story. This fabrication is the me. And what is that about? There's this thing we call the me has this story because it's trying to get something. It's trying to work, it's trying to do something with the moment to make it something else that it isn't. It feels that it's not okay and it's doing its thing to bring about this okayness. That's what the story is. So
So
why?
That's,
I mean, what are we getting from out of this? What is, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but we can maybe notice here that story is predicated on this moment being broken.
Yes.
If this moment is whole, not lacking, impossible for it to lack, because it's the only show in town. There is no other show. Or as Corey was saying, there is no offstage. There's just literally this, and this is whole and complete, whether you or I have a thought that says otherwise. The thoughts that they don't change, they don't touch the wholeness and completeness of life.
So there's really two things that we need to question here about the me. One is this assumption that there's something wrong with this moment. And then the second thing is that there's something that the me can do to fix that. Now, those are both completely, I mean, they couldn't be more wrong. There's, you know, but this is, you know, by not noticing that, that is what keeps this the whole story going. You know, it keeps it in action, even though it's not true. So, yeah. I mean, I'd go back to Peter's question. Peter, what could you do to make this moment better? In other words, to make it what it needs, what the me thinks it needs to be, what Peter, you know, feels that it needs to be okay. Is there really anything that Peter could do?
You're asking me?
No, yeah.
I don't know what
Well,
you did to Dan,
well-
Peter, but you should apologize quick.
Huh?
Well, no, I'm asking everybody else.
Oh.
I'm letting you off the hook because you've already been raked
No,
over.
no. Since you mentioned my name, I'm happy to answer. I don't know if, you know, I think I'm getting the hang of what we're talking about here, which basically is that if there is no me, there is nothing to be bettered. There is nothing to be answered. There is not a question, you know. The question only arises when there is a me, and the theory has been going around for some time around here, is that the me is never satisfied and me is never happy and so on, and it always wants to better itself. So, but since we're in the present moment here, or at least I'm holding that intent to be here right now, I don't really have a question, and I really don't feel that anything needs to be bettered. I was bitten by some mosquitoes a little earlier, so every so often I reach down and scratch the bite. But beyond that, I'm actually quite thrilled about having all this stuff that I'm absorbing settle down and affect the way I am right now.
Okay, I accept that. Anyone else? See, but if you're okay with right now, that ends everything, all this other stuff. The whole story of becoming disappears. Unless we want to bring it back. And then I would ask, why are we bringing it back? Because then it means we're just climbing back on the hamster wheel.
There is resonance there, Dan.
Oh, good.
With that statement.
I've redeemed myself. Good. I'd like to hear from others too.
So, I feel like I've recently evolved a little bit on this topic as far as the me. The other day I was watching some YouTube videos kind of similar to talks like this, and someone asked a question just about someone probably around my age too. Should I focus on my career or should I focus on self-realization? And I didn't even listen to the answer. I felt like right away it was just, what self? You know, what career? Just right now, just focus on right now. And I felt like for me, it was like a light bulb moment in some ways, because it's like, why get caught in that hamster wheel of overanalyzing, you know, which direction to go with your life? Just focus on right now.
Very well said, Michael. Well, there is a very, I want to say, good reason, because right now is all that exists. This is it. There is nothing else but this. And so it's always been this. And so now maybe it's beginning, there can be this like, oh, there never was time for me it's always been this.
So I practiced yesterday and this morning before I got sidetracked this afternoon on just being at work and just noticing, you know, the carpet, noticing and just saying, this is all there is. This is just this. And it really did slow down I mean, it was a wonderful practice. And I got glimpses. I really got glimpses of really not knowing anything because all there is this. And but I see how I get caught in story then from that. And it was wonderful reading your article this morning, Peter, about the stories. But I really could see there really was just this. And that can't be explained, and that is the mystery, and there isn't anything but this. So that was just my little exercise, and I think that can be helpful when I get caught in stories. I was in a bad story for a couple weeks, and really went to work with Michael and Tim Kliss and Jim Newman and Dan. And I'm glad I'm on the other side of that story, and just wanted to share that. That's all.
Thank you, Alice. Jack, Uncle Jack, welcome back. So if this is kind of a rare thing. Basically, you've known me for 61 years. That's amazing. It's kind of rare that you meet people that know you longer than you've known yourself. So inside all these bodies, this is nothing looking at nothing right now. So that's what's doing the seeking. Nothing is seeking itself. but it's looking for itself as a something. And that's why that seeking never ends, because it's futile. A nothing isn't a something.
So, but we say still there's nothing and there's something, but there's just this. So the nothing and the something are really all the same this. What's the difference? What's the nothing? The nothing is just the thing that doesn't have a story attached to it. Doesn't have any story. It doesn't have any description. It doesn't have words that, it doesn't have the story. That's what's the difference. The difference is between nothing and something. So we think that we're something, which we call a me, that's in the middle of a story. And then we're running on the story, looking for the end of the story, right? Every story is searching for the end of that story, the resolution, the answer. So it always goes back to, am I nothing? Which it just means, am I whatever's here without a story attached to it? Or am I something that's a story, that there's a story about? That's what we call the character. We call it me. This is the same thing, because there's only this. Except it feels a lot different to be in search of the end of my story.
Yeah, the best way I can describe it is the difference between watching a play and realizing it's a play and enjoying it as a play, or thinking it's serious, thinking it's real, and that every action matters and affects you.
I was struck by what Tim Cliff said. Something like you hear the birds chirping, and when we are talking, when we are speaking or thinking, presumably, it has as much meaning as the birds tweeting. That was really helpful to me, to just think that all this chatter we go on with, all this storifying, it has as much meaning as the birds tweeting in the trees.
Right, and he's just giving he got that from U.G. Krishnamurti, who said a dog's barking.
Oh, did he?
Well, I'm kind of joking,
Oh,
but
okay.
Dogs barking was
Okay.
U.G. said these words are no different, meaning they're meaningless, but not to a me. Because, right, but I'm trying to convey why they have meaning to the me, because the me thinks it's real. And as soon as I'm real, I'm really here as a solid, separate entity from life. I need these stories to be real to get me out of my predicament.
Yeah, I think the key word there is that inherently that we talk about a lot. Like, the birds chirping, the dogs barking, inherently they're just sounds, or they're just energy or whatever. But your thoughts are the same. And there's really no meaning to any of it, and except for the meaning that you give it. If you never learned that those were birds, you wouldn't know what that was. And if you never learned that those thoughts were yours, you wouldn't even care about them. So inherently, nothing has any meaning. So I think that word is very important to always keep in mind, inherently.
Well, Corey, just to piggyback on what you just said, you might notice, and for all of us, that your thoughts don't have any influence over what's going to happen next.
So that's the big mistake of the me. That's what the me doesn't get, doesn't notice. The me assumes that I can make something real by putting a story on it, by turning it, taking this nothing and making a story out of it, I can make it real. And now I'm in the story, and I think the story's real, and I'm trying to find the the pot of gold in the end of the story. But none of that made it real. It's still the nothing that it always is. That's all that's ever here. There is no, you can't change that by adding a story to it. That's the whole thing. And that's what the me misses.
Yeah.
And goes into the story, and which is we call suffering. It's changing just this nothing that is pure everything into suffering, because I've bought into the idea that if I put a story on it, then it becomes real.
Yeah, well, the me has a big problem because it needs future to complete the story, but it also knows that in the future it's going to die. So now what, right?
It always needs the future, but the future is never available. That's another way of seeing the futility of it, the craziness of it. That's why it's an endless hamster wheel, looking for that future. If that future ever came, then, that would be a possible, then maybe that would make sense. But the future doesn't ever come. That's why becoming isn't real. Becoming is only a story. It never becomes. This never becomes the future. This moment never doesn't become anything other than what it is. It's so obvious and simple, but for the me, it doesn't get it. Because the me is only involved with stories. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say that without the story, there's no 61-year-old birthday today. There's none of that. There's literally just this. To go, I'm 61, this body, I need a story for that. But again, I want to draw your attention to something it's very subtle. But again, the body doesn't have a story, right? Your body doesn't tell stories. It just is. It's just your body, whatever. And what's here that doesn't have any description doesn't have a problem with it. So what is it that could have a problem? Like, let's say you were really freaked out about turning a certain age. Maybe it's, so what would that be that would be bothered, given that it wouldn't be the body, because it's just being the body, and it wouldn't be the timeless that we're speaking of?
It has to be the me, the ego, because there's a story that I'm going to die in 20 years or 10 years, or it just tells a story about it. If there's no story, it doesn't matter. I think it's belief in that story about what it means to be a certain age. And society has sort of put that upon us, because you can't get away without someone asking you how old you are at some point. I often used to forget how old I was. I had to work it out because I never thought about it until somebody asks you, and then you think, oh yeah, you've got to add it up. And unless you're asked often enough, but in many ways you are asked that. When you fill out a form, you have to give your date of birth. So it's ingrained in you. If we didn't have that, we probably wouldn't worry about it so much. But it's definitely a me that has a fear. If you're freaked out about how old you are, there's got to be some story attached to it.
Right, but in a way, I'm asking the same question that Diana asked when she said, well, what do we mean when we say resonance? In a way, I'm kind of saying, well, what do we mean when we say the me?
Well, to me, there's no me. There never was a me.
Exactly.
It's just that I thought there was a me. It's just an idea that takes on a belief about something.
That's a lot different than saying it's you.
Yeah. And I just want to add that there's a sense, and this happens, like I get verification of this now and then about how free it is to just accept the moment. Because while I was away, I meant to spend a night away with my sister, and I booked a hotel. And when we got to the hotel, they didn't have a booking because I booked it on the wrong day. And a lovely man gave me a few hotels to ring up, but it's Easter. And I looked at my sister and I thought, oh, we might have to go home. You know, for me, that was okay because I thought, well, this is what's happening. And if we have to go home, we have to go home. But I felt really bad for her because it was my fault. And my mind started to tell me how stupid I was. And I'm thinking, okay. So I rang a few of those hotels and they were way too expensive. So I said, well, let's go have some lunch. Let's go for a drive. And we're going for a drive. And out of the corner of my eye, I went past a motel and saw vacancy. And so I did a U-turn and went in, and we found a hotel that was like $80 cheaper and stayed the night there. So
yeah.
And I said to my sister, I wonder what's going to happen. You know, I wonder. I was really excited to see how is this going to play out.
Right? It's
I had
like
no
adventure.
idea. Yeah. And it was really interesting. So it was all okay. As long as you don't panic and say the moment shouldn't be as it is, then usually everything, and even if we went home, it would have still been fine. So it's very freeing, because years ago I would have berated myself and this is not happening and I'm really sorry and all of that.
It's a lovely story. And I just want to throw this out there for what it's worth. That can go on. Even when you know there's no me there. The old habits, and Tim Cliffs was also talking about this. He says he has the same thing. Anger can still arise, annoyance. It just doesn't belong to anybody. So these emotions, that's the freedom of this lovely message. That everything is free to be exactly as it is. So there's no more guard at the door saying this emotion or this thought or feeling or that person or this person are unacceptable. No, it's just all the same thing. Expressing is that. You can think of it as an orchestra. You need all the different instruments to play exactly as they are. You wouldn't want the drums to sound like the violin. So that is right. These words are like the bird chirping, completely meaningless. And also the thoughts in the head, same thing. Those also are sounds in the head, and they're completely meaningless.
And for the me, meaningless just isn't enough. It's just no good. So again, you can look at that and say, what perspective is right here? Is it the one that just says it's meaningless and it's okay? Or is it the me who says it's meaningless and that's not okay? And now I'm going to have a story of making this meaningless thing into something that's okay, giving it some meaning, giving it some positive, something positive for me. And then I'm busy for the rest of the time.
This,
Yeah, but when you've, I
sorry,
was going to
Faith.
say when you've had enough I was going to say when you've had enough suffering, you've suffered and suffered and suffered, and you've looked and you've looked and you've looked, and then you just welcome. You're so grateful for the message that you just delivered, Michael. I just words don't describe how thankful and grateful I am to be able to embrace it, even if a little.
I love it. I love your unbridled enthusiasm. It's really easy. And I just wanted to be, if I could, a little bit even more precise in that even though this all has no meaning, the beauty of it is meaning is free to appear within the meaninglessness. So if you say, well, Michael, you just need to go down to the store. We need some napkins for dinner. If you could go walk, that's meaning. In the moment, there seems to be meaning. Oh, yes, I see the store. Thank you. But it's much different when it's not your meaning and it's not held on to tightly. It just works for the moment. Don't ask me how.
It's just like playing to me. It's just, so I'll play with it in that story, but that's totally different from what it used to be like when I was absorbed in it. Mm.
Or we can say the only meaning that is really meaning, that's real meaning, is meaning that appears by itself, that happens. The meaning that I make happen, the meaning that I have something to do with, that's the meaning for the me, that's the story stuff. That's not real, and there is no meaning to that. There is meaning in whatever is appearing as meaning. But there's no me in that. There's no me in that meaning. The me thinks it's my job to make meaning and to make things more meaningful and to get the real meaning of stuff. But there's too much me in that.
Question. So, because Corey made a great point earlier about inherent nature. So take a word like, or a feeling like love, a purpose or what have you. There comes a point also where would it not be true that if you have inherent meaning or you do something in life that is inherent, like the dog's barking, to me it feels like there's no me in there, but yet there's meaning. So anyway, my point is just, I think that we have to be careful too, at least I'm speaking out loud for me, that there is good meaning as opposed to like being scared of meaning, or the me's got to always be in the meaning. And I think that we can have inherent meaning or intuitive meaning that is just meaning, but it is fulfilling.
It makes sense.
I just came out of the meditation, so this is my witching hour, 7:04. Sorry, Dan, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, it's good.
Oh my God. Ha. Well, look who made it right. Oh, I gotta put him on the spot. Charles just showed up. Yeah, better late than never, Charles.
Sorry about that.
And on my birthday too, no guilt. Nice to have you. Well, we got to do it all over again.
You're going to hand out the secret sauce again?
Nothing appearing as my voice, nothing appearing as the Zoom session. What does Adi Shanti call it? Emptiness dancing?
Yes.
I could go with that. Emptiness dancing. So it's both still, this never moves, and yet there's the appearance of movement, the dancing. Emptiness dancing. And so one of the things that has struck me recently is there can be some sadness when you realize that all those stories you had growing up, all your childhood memories, all that, never actually, none of that was yours. It's both freeing and loving, but can also be incredibly sad. I think part of the sadness is you realize that that character that you thought you were was completely innocent. Like every me is just going to express however it expressed. There's no one doing it. The me can't help it. However it appears. It'd be like saying a flower should do it differently. Has no choice. Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
Happy birthday, happy new moment.
Thanks so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to everybody for coming. Really appreciate you. Thank you for spending my birthday. Did I mention it was my birthday today?
No, you didn't.
Facebook announced it.
I know, right? Then you get 200 people, but I kept it simple. Everybody got a red heart. I was like, no, I'm not writing you guys. And that actually is, there's great love when you realize that all human beings are the same. In society, in the world, we tend to put some human beings up here, celebrities or sports athletes, and less than down here, but we're all equal in our emptiness.
I'll give you a quote on the way out, a Michael Jeffries quote, like a birthday present. You would say, or you have said more than once, that what's looking out of my eyes is the same thing that's looking out of your eyes. So that's a quote from Michael Jeffries on his birthday.
There it is.
Thank you.
Hard to argue with that. Thank you, everybody, so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Have a happy and healthy life.
Happy
guys.
birthday.
Happy
Bye,
birthday.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.